Hello everyone, I'm Dr. Sapna Dadwal. I'm working as a professor in the Department of Management. This is my lecture 20 of Business Law of Unit 4, and I'm working at St. Andrews Institute of Technology and Management as professor in the Department of Management. So I'm starting with this lecture number 20. In my last lecture number 19, I gave you introduction about the Negotiable Instrument Act and told you about the definition of negotiable instruments and features of negotiable instruments. The topics I'm going to cover in this lecture are quasi-negotiable instruments, presumption as to negotiable instruments, types of negotiable instruments, then promissory note, definition of promissory note, then characteristics of promissory note, then bill of exchange definition and characteristics of bill of exchange. These are the topics I am going to cover in this lecture. So I am starting with first topic, that is Quasi-Negotiable Instrument Act. So these instruments are capable of being transferred by delivery and or endorsement, but the transfer of these documents cannot give to the holder a better title than he himself had, which is fundamental condition for a document to qualify as a negotiable instrument. So therefore, the provisions of Negotiable Instrument Act 1881 do not apply on these quasi-negotiable instrument. Example is bill of lading, railway receipts, dock warrants. So very clear from this, what are quasi-negotiable instruments? These are same as negotiable instruments, but the holder of these instruments cannot give the better title to the other person, as in case of negotiable instruments. So as the holder cannot give good title or same better title to the he himself is having to the person he is transferring to the other person, then the provisions of the Negotiable Instrument Act doesn't apply to these documents. So quasi-negotiable instruments doesn't come under Negotiable Instrument Act 1881. So I have given you example also what are quasi-negotiable instruments. These three are examples of a quasi-negotiable instrument act. Quasi-negotiable instruments. Now presumptions as to negotiable instruments. So there are some presumptions about the negotiable instruments. I have discussed those presumptions here. The first one is consideration, that every negotiable instrument was made or drawn, accepted, endorsed or transferred for a consideration. Without consideration, there is no negotiable instrument. Then date. Every negotiable instrument must bear a date and was made or drawn on such date. So it must bear a date on which it is made or drawn. Then third, time of acceptance. Every accepted bill of exchange was accepted within a reasonable time after its date and before its maturity. So this is one of the presumption, very important presumption. Then that every bill of exchange, every negotiable instrument must be accepted within a reasonable time period and before its maturity. After maturity, no instrument can be accepted. Then fourth one is time of transfer, that every transfer or negotiable instrument was made before its maturity. That transfer can be negotiable instrument can be transferred only before its maturity. Then fifth is time of endorsement, that every negotiable instrument endorsed before the maturity and date is appeared on the instrument on which it was endorsed. So it should be appeared when this was endorsed, to whom it was endorsed. Then stamp. Every list or every instrument must be duly stamped. Without stamp, it will not be called as instrument, negotiable instrument. Then seventh is holder, presumed to be holder in due course. Every holder of negotiable instrument is presumed to be holder in due course. He gets the good title. He gets the as strong title as maker of the instrument. Now, proof of protest. In suit upon an instrument which has been dishonored, the court shall, on proof of the protest, presume the fact of dishonor unless and until such fact is disapproved. It's very clear from this. Now, the next topic is types of negotiable instrument. The Negotiable Instrument Act mentioned only three kinds of negotiable instrument. These are promissory note, bill of exchange, and check. The definition of Section 13(1) of Negotiable Instrument Act 1881 say there are three kinds of negotiable instrument. So these are promissory note, bill of exchange, and check. So I'm starting with first type, that is promissory note. A promissory note is an instrument in writing containing an unconditional undertaking signed by the maker to pay a certain sum of money only to or to the order of such person or to the bearer of the instrument. So the person who makes the promissory note and promises to pay is called as maker of the promissory note. The person to whom the payment is to be made is called as payee of the promissory note. So there are two parties to promissory note. Examples of promissory note is A promised to pay B or order 500 rupees. So this is example. Then Mr. B, I owe you rupees 1000. This is example of again promissory note. Now I'm starting with characteristics of promissory note. So the first one is it is an instrument in writing. Yes, a mere verbal promise to pay is not a promissory note. The promise should be in writing. The writing may be in ink or pencil or printing or lithographic, anything. They may be in any form. So it will be a promissory note so long as it satisfies this requirement that it should be in writing. In other words, an oral promise doesn't make a promissory note. So it is in an oral promise will not be called as instrument. So when it is not an instrument, it will not be called as a promissory note. Then second characteristic is it is a promise to pay. So there must be an express undertaking or promise to pay. A mere acknowledgement of indebtedness or implied undertaking by use of word debt or pro note will not be called as a promise note. So it is a promise to pay. It is a written promise to pay. Then it must be signed by the maker. The instrument must be signed by the maker, otherwise it is incomplete and will not have any effect, even if it is written by the maker himself and his name appears in the body of the instrument. But if his signatures are not there, then it will not have any effect on it. It should be signed by the maker. Then fourth one is there are other formalities also, like number, place, date, consideration, etc. These must be there in the promissory note. These all should be there in the promissory note. Then fifth one is it is a definite and unconditional promise to pay. The promise must be definite and unconditional. So it may be noted that promise to pay is not conditional if it depends upon an event which is certain to happen, but the time of its occurrence may be uncertain. But promise should be unconditional. Now it is a promise to pay money only. The payment to be made under the instrument must be in the legal tender money of India. Then maker must be a certain person. Maker of the promissory note must be a certain person. The instrument itself must indicate with certainty who is the person who has made this instrument. Then payee must be certain person. Like the maker, the payee of the promissory note must also be certain on the face of instrument. A note is valid even if payee is misnamed or indicated by his official designation only, but payee must be a certain person. Then sum payable must be certain. So for a valid promissory note, it is also essential that sum of money promised to be payable must be certain and definite. The next feature is it may be payable on demand or after a definite period of time. So the expression on demand means payable immediately or forthwith. The last characteristic is it cannot be made payable to bearer on demand. The Reserve Bank of India Act 1934 prohibits issue of such promissory note except by the Reserve Bank of India itself or the central government. So it cannot be made payable to the bearer on demand. Now parties to the promissory note. The first one is maker, the person who promises to pay the amount stated in the note. Then payee, the person to whom the amount is to be paid. The holder, he is either the payee or the person to whom this instrument has been endorsed. Now the second type of instrument, negotiable instrument, is bill of exchange. A bill of exchange is an instrument in writing containing an unconditional order signed by the maker directing a certain person to pay a certain sum of money any to or to the order of certain person or to the bearer of the instrument. So this is the definition as per section 5 of Negotiable Instrument Act 1881 of Bill of Exchange. So it is very clear that a bill of exchange may be made payable to bearer on demand or after a definite period of time. And a bill of exchange cannot be made payable to bearer on demand because section 31 of the Reserve Bank of India Act prohibits the issue of such bill of exchanges. Now special benefit of bill of exchange. So bill of exchange have some special benefits also. A bill of exchange is a double secured instrument. Where the drawee fails to honor the order, the holder of the instrument may look to the drawer for payment. Then second benefit is in case of immediate requirement, a bill may be discounted with the bank. Third benefit is the drawer or any endorser thereof may mention a person as drawee in case of need. So these are the benefits of bill of exchange. Now the next topic is essential elements of bill of exchange. First is it must be in writing as promissory note. As in case of promissory note, this was the first essential also. It is same with the bill of exchange that it must be in writing. A bill of exchange must be in writing. An oral and expressed promise will not be called as bill of exchange. Then second is there must be an order to pay. So it is of the essence of bill that its drawer or the maker orders the drawee to pay money to the payee. So the term order doesn't mean command. So any request or direction or other word which shows the intention of the drawer to cause a payment being made by the drawee is sufficient. Fourth is the drawee must sign the instrument. Yes, sir. A bill, in order to be perfect, must indicate a drawee who should be called upon to accept or pay it. Then signature of the drawer. Signature of the drawer. The drawer must sign the instrument. the maker of the instrument must sign the instrument. So the instrument without the proper signature will be inappropriate or hence ineffective. So it is permissible to add the signature at any time even after the issue of the bill. Now it is an unconditional order. The order must be unconditional as the bill is payable at all event. It is absolutely necessary for the drawer's order to draw to be unconditional. Then the parties to the bill must be specified in the bill. Then the payment must be in money only and payment in kind is not valid. It's very true. And the sum to be paid must be certain. There should be a certain sum with reasonable certainty. Then the bill must duly stamped. The bill of exchange must be a duly stamped. A bill of exchange to be valid must be duly stamped as per Indian Stamp Act. Then a bill of exchange cannot be made payable to bearer on demand. A bill of exchange as originally drawn cannot be made payable to the bearer on demand. Now the parties to bill of exchange. First, a drawer, the maker of the bill of exchange, drawee, the person directed to pay the money by the drawer. The person named in the instrument to whom money is to be paid is called as payee. So these are the questions which are related to the above topics which are discussed in this lecture. So if any query is there, please do contact me. Please ignore, there are some mistakes I've seen, like writing mistakes. Please ignore those mistakes. If any query is there, you can always contact me. Thank you so much.